What is an anime adaptation supposed to be? I think this question is a bit more nuanced than it seems at first. These days, it feels like an animated adaptation is a given for any semi-popular manga that releases. Because of this, I feel like the perception of a manga as a piece of art by itself has been somewhat diminished, from being its own thing to just a stepping stone in the production of an anime, a storyboard to be animated instead of a fully realized work. This could be the answer to our question. An anime adaptation is supposed to animate the manga, giving motion to fight scenes and voices to the dialogue. Just take what the mangaka created and turn it into a motion picture. For the most part, that approach works. If an anime adheres to the art style of the manga, if it has good visuals and sound design, and if it follows the plot, then that usually results in a great adaptation. But I don't think that's the right way to do it. Or at least, I thought it was the right way until I saw the third season of Jujutsu Kaisen. I thought the first season was fine. I was impressed by certain scenes in the second one, but after watching the first part of the Culling Games, the last two seasons, no, every single shonen anime adaptation that I've ever seen has not felt the same. And it all comes down to one word: cinematography. That's it. Nothing less, nothing more. Cinematography. Let's circle back to what I was talking about earlier, the manga being treated like the storyboard for the anime. Sure, that's a decent approach, but it results in moments like this. Tell me, what is being shown here? What are our eyes supposed to land on? That group of characters? But if so, then why isn't this shot centered on them? Why is it some weird isometric view? Not to mention, that background looks kinda cheap. There really is nothing particularly interesting to look at here. This shot does nothing aside from providing some background footage for the characters to say their lines. But you'll say I'm cherry picking, and that's fair, so here's another one. Once again, it's not really clear what to look at. Deku's gripper over here? I mean, yeah, it's way out in the bottom left, but it's really the only thing popping out of the background. And once again, that background itself just isn't really interesting and looks a bit off. And just to show that this isn't only the case in MHA, here's a moment from the 2011 Hunter x Hunter anime. Now, unlike the previous shots, these don't look bad. They're completely fine, but once again, the camera is only used as a tool to display the stuff on screen. No extra care is put into how it's positioned or how the characters are arranged here. A lot of anime adaptations do this. Many shots are put together purely to make sure things are shown, but not really considering how they are shown. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about the animation or the art style here. These shows look good, even great, but I'd like you to keep in mind how cinematography is applied here. Now take a look at this. Feels different, right? There's a purpose behind this shot, an idea. It's not just about the details, the colors, or the fluidity of motion, but about how it is all framed. Notice how the director had to be aware of the environment the characters are in and of the objects that occupy it, most notably this pole. Not only that, he placed the camera so that Megumi and Takaba fit neatly between these cables. That's exactly what it's all about, treating the characters, all of the objects in the scene, and the camera as real physical things, the presence of which has to be taken into account. But that's only half of the challenge, because then these things have to be arranged in compositions which lead the viewer's eye and make the whole thing pleasant to look at, which is also done here superbly. And, needless to say, none of this was in the manga. Let's look at the same episode, but a scene from a couple minutes before. Megumi fighting the sorcerer Hari, which I've already shown you during the montage earlier. Take note of the camera movement. It's zipping around the scene as if there was an actual operator behind it, always trying to center in on the action, focusing on the thrown punches, the kicks, the dodges. Any other anime would have likely made the camera static, but this movement gives all of the characters' attacks an additional weight and makes the fight way more dynamic. Also worth taking note of is the excellent choreography on display here. Compare it to this fight from One Piece. Sure, there are a couple zooms to emphasize the blades clashing, sometimes there will even be a pan to show a bit more action, but there's really nothing more to it. the camera is always stuck to the characters without much care given to framing and composition of shots, simply showing their actions and subsequent reactions. I'm sorry, but at least in my eyes, these two scenes don't even compare. JJK Season 3 doesn't rely on impact frames or nice colors to make the fight look visually appealing. Sure, it busts these out occasionally and they look stunning, but I cannot emphasize how much is added simply through camera movement and good choreography. And the best part? It's not just the fight scenes. Take a look at this conversation from the 4th episode of the season. It's not just close up on one face, close up on another face. A carefully crafted shot was set up here. The actors told their directions and action. The scene played out. I'm no film major, but even I could see that there was something else here, making it look different, making it look better than any other shonen adaptation that I've seen. Screw it, every animated TV show that I've seen. The usage of all these techniques gave this show an almost live action feel, while keeping all of the benefits that animation brings: exaggerated movements, silly faces, stylized scenes. I held my breath during the 4-minute long conversation between Hakari and Yuji, fully rotoscoped, when the camera never moves and never cuts. I was jumping out of my chair during the Sendai colony fight, and I was laughing my ass off at every single scene that Takaba was in, not to mention the phenomenal Zenin clan massacre. I mean, these people somehow managed to make an episode that was purely an info dump interesting visually, instead of relying on the old characters standing around and talking to each other method. Now, I kind of lied earlier, sorry about that. Obviously, it's not just the cinematography. As usual, MAPPA's excellent animation and attention to detail does most of the heavy lifting, combined with the choreography which I've already mentioned multiple times. The excellent voice acting and overall sound design, as well as the phenomenal soundtrack, only serve to further enhance the watching experience. But the creative camera work added something to the show that I never knew I needed, and it permanently changed what I expected from it and most other shonen adaptations. With this much glazing, it's only fair that I talk about the man responsible for it all. Shota Goshizono has reportedly storyboarded every Season 3 episode, and it is due to him, as well as many episode directors, that this show looks as great as it does. Unfortunately, he did leave Studio MAPPA, but I can only hope that it doesn't result in a drop in quality in Part 2 of the Culling Games. Now of course, not every anime has to look like this, and I'm certainly not calling any of them bad for not employing these methods. I, for one, cannot really imagine that JoJo's, with all the crazy shit that happens there, would look good with rotoscoping. I don't think that something like Mob Psycho needs crazy choreography in its fights, and I also don't think that most slice of life or comedy anime need to look half as good as JJK does. But I do think that the director of every animated adaptation should be someone versed in cinematography and its techniques, at the very least to avoid mistakes which could spoil an otherwise fine scene. And I think any work which doesn't go for an insanely stylized look, such as the upcoming Kagurabachi anime or the Invincible adaptation, because obviously this doesn't apply exclusively to anime, could greatly benefit from creative shot composition and treating characters as if they were real, physical actors. Obviously, I don't think most animes are doing it on purpose. I don't think the people making an anime want to make it look worse or aren't giving it their 110%. It's just that this lack of care when it comes to the finer details of making a motion picture is a symptom of the problem plaguing, well, to be honest, most productions today, not just in the realm of anime and comics. That problem being the urge to mass-produce content. Instead of having an artist pour their heart and soul into something and then release it whenever they want, there are now tight deadlines, not only ones created by studio executives, but also ones created by fans, who want to get an adaptation of their favorite comic or the next chapter of their manga as soon as possible. The effects of this approach are crystal clear in the shonen scene, where chapters either get rushed, resulting in subpar drawings, or the authors have to manage their time effectively, saving their effort for large, important scenes and giving less attention to less important panels. This, I think, only contributes to what I was talking about earlier. Now there's an additional expectation from fans for the anime to come along and fix this mistake, giving us the quote-unquote definitive version of the story. Don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes when reading a comic, I can't help but think, man, this would look awesome animated. But there's a difference between treating an adaptation as a blessing, which further expands the brilliance of the source material, and as a given, which is meant to replace it. What doesn't help is the standard to which most people hold an anime adaptation. Like I pointed out earlier, usually studios settle for simply animating the manga panels, without much care for the details. The studio couldn't be bothered to add more to this shot or make it more interesting visually because the bare minimum has already been achieved. The manga has been animated, the important character interactions and dialogue have already been included. I think it's no coincidence that manga which are widely considered to have some of the best artwork in the genre, such as Vagabond, Berserk or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, have either no adaptations or have had to wait a long time for one. These have phenomenal art, and the fans expect the adaptations to hold up. There's a reason why the 2016 Berserk adaptation was universally hated, and why in 2021 JoJo fans collectively criticized the silhouettes used in the backgrounds of Stone Ocean. These look bad and are an insult to the source material, but the truth is that in a lot of anime adaptations, stuff like this is just par for the course. I'm not necessarily blaming the artist for this. It's hard to be mad at someone working ungodly hours in an already underpaid industry for taking a few shortcuts or not giving as much care to scenes that don't really matter. But seeing how the entirety of JJK Season 3, not just the fight scene, but also regular dialogue, has been done so well and with such care, I can't help but think that it really is possible to make sure every second of an anime is as well made as it can be. Of course, MAPPA aren't saints, and this level of quality certainly couldn't be achieved in such an amount of time without what was practically slave labor. This inhumane treatment of artists is a plague upon the industry, but that is a whole nother topic to address, and it's not really what I wanted to focus on in this video. In short, JJK Season 3 is how an anime adaptation should be done. It's squeezing all that it can out of its medium and using cinematography tricks which significantly enhance the viewing experience, and I only wish that more adaptations would do the same. Sure, it might be nice to have an anime made quickly and released weekly, but once it's fully out, it's out there forever, potentially for generations to see. I happen to think that making sure a work looks good for years and years to come is much more important than having it be made in a short time span to appease the fans, because that is only a temporary factor. But of course, you may disagree with me, and please do so in the comments. Like I said, I'm no film major. I think it might be hard to strike a balance between not overworking the animators and making sure an anime is as well made as possible. But perhaps the solution is to just give them the room to breathe. Maybe if they are allowed to actually enjoy the work they are doing, they will have the motivation and energy to put extra care into the smallest of details. In either case, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in another video.